There comes a moment, usually quietly, when you realize that how you feel each day is no longer something you can take for granted. Perhaps it was waking up one morning and noticing the stiffness didn't fade as quickly as it used to. Or realizing that the mental clarity you once moved through the world with has become somewhat unreliable. In these moments, a question naturally arises. Is this simply what getting older means? Is this inevitable decline the only path forward? For most of us, the assumption has been yes, that aging is a slow, steady surrender to entropy. But hidden within the pages of medical history, and confirmed by emerging research, is a radically different understanding. One that suggests the body's trajectory in the second half of life is not fixed at all, but remarkably responsive to conditions we can actually influence. Not through heroic measures or miraculous treatments, but through a return to something far more fundamental, something most of us have been overlooking entirely. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The art of growing well. A calm exploration of health in the second half of life. There comes a point in life when the questions begin to shift. For decades, the focus may have been on building careers, families, homes, identities. The body was often taken for granted. A reliable vehicle that carried everything forward without much conscious thought. Then somewhere in the fifth decade, a subtle change arrives. Recovery from exertion takes a little longer. Sleep patterns shift. Minor discomforts that once disappeared overnight now linger for days. The questions become different. How do I maintain this? How do I keep feeling capable, clear-minded, and energetic for as long as possible? These questions are not new. Humans have been asking them for thousands of years, across every culture and civilization. The answers have varied, but certain patterns emerge consistently. Certain ways of living appear again and again among those who age with grace and vitality. This is not about miracle cures or secret formulas. It is about understanding how the body works, what it needs, and how to provide those needs in a sustainable, realistic way. The following pages explore the principles that support healthy aging. They draw from observations of long-lived populations, from emerging research in various scientific fields, and from the accumulated wisdom of traditional practices around the world. The goal is not to present a rigid program or a list of commands. It is to offer a framework, a way of thinking about health that can be adapted to individual circumstances, preferences, and needs. The body as a living system. To understand how to support health in the later decades, it helps to consider what the body actually is. Not in a complicated, technical sense, but as a living system constantly interacting with its environment. The human body can be thought of as a highly organized community of trillions of cells, each performing specific functions while communicating constantly with neighbors. This community requires certain conditions to thrive: a stable internal environment, a steady supply of nutrients, effective waste removal, and protection from outside threats. When these conditions are met, the community functions smoothly. When they are disrupted, problems begin to emerge. One useful way to think about aging is the gradual accumulation of small disruptions. Over time, cells may become less efficient at producing energy. Communication between cells may become noisier, less precise. The systems that repair damage may slow down. The barriers that keep threats out may become more permeable. These changes happen to everyone, but the rate at which they happen varies enormously from person to person. This is where lifestyle comes in. The way we live, what we eat, how we move, how we rest, how we relate to others, either supports the body's natural maintenance systems or undermines them. Every meal, every night of sleep, every walk, every moment of stress or calm sends signals to the cells about what conditions to expect and how to allocate resources. The body is remarkably adaptive. It responds to the demands placed upon it. If those demands include regular movement, it maintains the structures that make movement possible. If they include periods of rest and recovery, it performs necessary maintenance during those windows. If they include a wide variety of plant foods, it receives the diverse compounds needed for countless metabolic processes. The converse is also true. When demands include prolonged sitting, the body adapts by allowing certain structures to weaken. When rest is insufficient, maintenance is postponed. When the diet lacks variety, certain metabolic pathways become compromised. This adaptability is neither good nor bad in itself. It is simply how living systems work. But understanding it changes the question from, what should I do to fix this problem, to what conditions does my body need to function well, and how can I provide them consistently? The question of balance. Traditional medical systems around the world have long described health in terms of balance. Not balance in the vague, metaphorical sense, but balance between specific qualities or forces that influence how the body functions. While the terminology differs across cultures, certain patterns appear repeatedly. One such pattern involves the relationship between moisture and dryness. In several traditional frameworks, excessive dampness in the body is associated with sluggishness, heaviness, congestion, and susceptibility to various complaints. This is not about water intake in the simple sense, but about how fluids are managed and distributed throughout the tissues. When the systems that regulate fluid balance become less efficient, certain undesirable conditions can develop. Tissues may become waterlogged. Mucus production may increase. The environment within the body may become more hospitable to organisms that prefer warm, moist conditions. This is not a matter of blame or moral failing. It is simply a description of how things work. Modern life, particularly in Western countries, tends to promote this state of dampness in several ways. Diets high in refined carbohydrates and sugars create metabolic conditions that affect fluid balance. Excessive consumption of dairy products can influence mucus production in susceptible individuals. Cold foods and beverages, consumed throughout the day, may affect digestive function in ways that contribute to fluid accumulation. Lack of movement reduces the circulation that helps move fluids through tissues. The alternative is not to pursue extreme dryness, which would bring its own problems. It is to support the body's natural ability to maintain appropriate fluid balance. This involves choosing foods and practices that promote healthy circulation and efficient fluid management, while reducing those that tend toward congestion and stagnation. Similar principles apply to temperature. The body functions best within a fairly narrow temperature range, and it expends significant energy maintaining that range. When we regularly consume very cold foods and drinks, the digestive system must work harder to bring everything to body temperature before proper processing can occur. Over time, this constant demand can divert energy from other maintenance tasks. This is not about never eating anything cold again. It is about awareness. A meal of warm, cooked foods sends different signals to the body than a meal of cold, raw foods. Both have their place. But for those seeking to support healthy function in the later decades, leaning toward warmth more often than cold may provide meaningful support. The foundation of food. Few factors influence health as consistently as the daily pattern of eating. Food provides not only calories and nutrients, but also information. Every bite tells the body something about the environment it inhabits and the resources available. The dietary patterns observed in populations with high rates of healthy aging share certain characteristics. These are not exotic or complicated diets. They are patterns that humans have eaten for thousands of years, long before the Industrial Revolution transformed food production. One consistent feature is the emphasis on whole foods in forms that require minimal processing. Vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and modest amounts of animal foods appear in various combinations across cultures. These foods provide not only the macronutrients, proteins, fats, carbohydrates that fuel daily activity, but also the micronutrients and phytochemicals that support countless regulatory processes. Another common feature is the preparation of foods in ways that enhance digestibility. Cooking, fermenting, soaking, and slow simmering all break down complex structures, making nutrients more accessible while reducing compounds that might irritate sensitive digestive systems. Bone broths and slow-cooked soups appear in traditional cuisines around the world, often reserved for those recovering from illness or needing extra nourishment. A third feature is the avoidance of certain food types that, in excess, seem to challenge the body's regulatory systems. Refined sugars and flours, industrial seed oils, and excessive dairy appear far less frequently in traditional eating patterns than in modern industrial diets. These foods, consumed regularly, appear to promote the kind of internal environment where various health challenges can take root. For those in the second half of life, certain dietary considerations become particularly relevant. The digestive system, like all other systems, becomes less forgiving over time. Foods that were easily managed at 30 may become problematic at 60. This is not a punishment. It is simply the body's way of signaling what it needs. One useful approach is to emphasize foods that support the gut barrier. The lining of the digestive tract serves as the primary interface between the internal body and the outside world. When this barrier functions well, it allows nutrients through while keeping larger particles and undesirable substances out. When it becomes compromised, a condition often described as increased intestinal permeability, partially digested food molecules and bacterial fragments can enter the bloodstream, triggering immune responses that ripple throughout the body. Foods that support gut barrier function include those rich in collagen and gelatin, found in bone broths and slow-cooked meats. They include formidable fibers that feed beneficial bacteria, found in vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. They include compounds that soothe irritated tissues, found in foods like ginger and certain mushrooms. Another consideration involves foods that may contribute to the kind of internal environment where pathogens thrive. Simple sugars feed not only human cells, but also various microorganisms. In excess, they can shift the balance of the internal ecosystem toward organisms that prefer sweet conditions. Dairy products, for some individuals, increase mucus production in ways that create favorable conditions for certain microbes. Refined grains convert rapidly to sugar in the body, producing similar effects. This is not about perfection. Very few people can or should maintain a completely pristine diet indefinitely. It is about direction, shifting the balance of daily eating toward whole, minimally processed foods and away from refined products creates internal conditions that support healthy function across all systems. The wisdom of warmth. Temperature considerations extend beyond food to encompass the broader environment in which the body operates. Warmth, in various forms, appears repeatedly in traditional approaches to supporting health in the later years. The digestive system functions optimally in a warm environment. Enzymes work best at body temperature. Blood flow to digestive organs increases when the body is warm. The muscles that move food through the tract relax and contract more efficiently when not chilled. This has practical implications for meal timing and composition. Starting a meal with warm soup or tea gently prepares the digestive system for the work ahead. Eating foods that have been cooked rather than served cold reduces the energy required for processing. Avoiding large amounts of cold beverages with meals prevents the dilution of digestive secretions and the cooling of stomach contents. Beyond digestion, warmth supports circulation generally. Warm tissues receive better blood flow, which means better delivery of oxygen and nutrients and more efficient removal of waste products. This becomes increasingly important as the years advance, and the cardiovascular system naturally becomes less flexible. Warmth can be applied externally as well as internally. Warm baths, particularly with certain minerals or herbs added, support relaxation and may aid various metabolic processes. Gentle heat applied to areas of discomfort can increase local circulation and promote healing. Even simply dressing warmly enough to maintain comfortable body temperature reduces the energy the body must expend on temperature regulation. None of this suggests that cold has no place. Brief cold exposure, properly managed, can stimulate various beneficial responses. But for daily, ongoing support of healthy function, warmth serves as a more reliable foundation. Movement as medicine. The human body was designed for movement. Every system, cardiovascular, muscular, skeletal, nervous, lymphatic, depends on regular physical activity to function optimally. When movement stops, these systems gradually decline. In the second half of life, the relationship with movement often becomes complicated. Past injuries may resurface. Joints may feel less forgiving. Energy may seem insufficient for the activities once enjoyed. The temptation to slow down, to take it easy, to avoid discomfort can be strong. Yet research consistently shows that continued movement is one of the most powerful predictors of healthy aging. Those who remain active maintain better function across every measurable domain. They retain muscle mass, which supports metabolism and protects against falls. They maintain bone density, which reduces fracture risk. They keep joints lubricated and mobile. They support cardiovascular health. They even appear to maintain cognitive function better than their sedentary peers. The type of movement matters less than the consistency. Walking, gardening, swimming, dancing, tai chi, strength training, yoga all offer benefits. The best form of movement is the one that can be maintained consistently over time. Certain principles apply across all forms of movement. Regularity matters more than intensity. A moderate walk every day provides more benefit than an intense workout once a week followed by 6 days of inactivity. Movement should be challenging enough to stimulate adaptation, but not so challenging that it causes injury or burnout. Variety helps ensure that all systems receive attention rather than just a few. For those with specific limitations, working with a knowledgeable professional can make the difference between movement that supports health and movement that causes problems. Physical therapists, personal trainers with experience in older adults, and movement teachers of various traditions can help design approaches that work with individual bodies rather than against them. One often overlooked aspect of movement is its role in lymphatic function. Unlike the cardiovascular system, which has the heart to pump blood, the lymphatic system depends entirely on movement to circulate. Muscle contractions squeeze lymphatic vessels, pushing fluid through one-way valves toward processing stations and eventually back into the bloodstream. Without regular movement, lymphatic fluid stagnates, compromising immune function and allowing waste products to accumulate. This is one reason why even gentle movement provides such significant benefits. A slow walk, gentle stretching, or simple movements performed while seated all stimulate lymphatic flow. The key is consistency, moving the body in some way every day. The restorative power of sleep. If movement is the active phase of the body's maintenance cycle, sleep is the repair phase. During sleep, the body performs essential tasks that cannot be accomplished during waking hours. Tissues are repaired. Memories are consolidated. Waste products are cleared from the brain. Hormones are balanced. Immune function is calibrated. In modern societies, sleep is often treated as optional, as something to be minimized in favor of productivity or entertainment. This attitude exacts a heavy toll, particularly as the years advance. Sleep quality tends to decline naturally with age, but poor sleep habits can accelerate this decline dramatically. Creating conditions for good sleep involves multiple factors. Consistency of schedule helps regulate the internal clock. Exposure to natural light during the day, particularly in the morning, reinforces healthy sleep-wake cycles. Dimming lights in the evening signals the body to begin preparing for rest. Keeping the sleeping environment cool, dark, and quiet supports uninterrupted sleep. What happens in the hours before bed also matters. Large meals late in the evening force the digestive system to work during the sleep period, potentially disrupting rest. Stimulants like caffeine, consumed too late in the day, can interfere with sleep onset and quality. Alcohol, while it may help with falling asleep initially, often leads to fragmented sleep later in the night. For those who struggle with sleep, certain practices may help. Gentle movement earlier in the day supports deeper sleep at night. Warm baths or showers before bed can ease the transition into rest. Calming activities like reading, gentle stretching, or meditation signal the nervous system that it is safe to power down. Sleep needs vary among individuals, but most adults function best with 7 to 9 hours per night. Less than this, consistently, appears to accelerate various aspects of aging. More than this may indicate underlying issues that deserve attention. The nervous system and the stress response. The human nervous system evolved to handle acute threats. When a predator appeared, the body mobilized resources for fight or flight. Once the threat passed, the system returned to baseline, and recovery occurred. This cycle worked well for environments where threats were intermittent and clearly defined. Modern life presents a different challenge. Threats are rarely physical and rarely brief. They are chronic and diffuse: financial worries, relationship tensions, work pressures, information overload, concerns about the future. The nervous system responds to these perceived threats with the same mobilization it would apply to a predator. But the threat never fully resolves. The system remains partially activated, day after day, year after year. This chronic activation carries significant costs. Resources that might otherwise support maintenance and repair are diverted to constant readiness. Inflammation, a useful short-term response to injury or infection, becomes persistent, damaging tissues rather than protecting them. Hormone systems become dysregulated. Sleep suffers. Digestion suffers. Immune function suffers. Supporting the nervous system in the second half of life involves recognizing this dynamic and taking steps to counter it. This is not about eliminating stress entirely, an impossible goal, but about creating regular periods of recovery when the system can return to baseline. Practices that activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch responsible for rest and digest functions, can help. Slow, deep breathing sends signals of safety throughout the body. Time in nature, away from the constant stimulation of modern environments, allows the nervous system to recalibrate. Gentle movement practices like Tai Chi or yoga combine physical activity with meditative focus. Simply sitting quietly for a few minutes each day, with no agenda, can provide meaningful reset. Social connection also plays a role in nervous system regulation. The presence of trusted others, particularly in settings that feel safe, naturally calms the stress response. This is one reason why isolation exacts such a heavy toll on health. While strong social bonds appear protective across multiple measures, for those whose stress levels feel unmanageable, professional support may help. Therapists, counselors, and other practitioners can provide tools and perspectives that make chronic stress more navigable. This is not a sign of weakness, but a recognition that the nervous system sometimes needs help finding its way back to balance. The emotional dimension. Emotions are not separate from the body. They are physiological events, involving specific patterns of hormone release, nervous system activation, and tissue response. Fear, grief, joy, gratitude, all have distinct biochemical signatures that influence how the body functions. Traditional medical systems have long recognized connections between specific emotions and specific organ systems. Fear, in several traditions, is associated with kidney and adrenal function. Grief and depression are linked to the lungs and large intestine. Chronic anger affects the liver. Worry weakens the digestive system. These associations are not meant as literal statements about anatomy, but as observations about patterns that appear consistently across individuals. Modern research supports the general principle that emotional states influence physical health. Chronic negative emotions are associated with higher levels of inflammation, poorer immune function, slower wound healing, and increased risk for various diseases. Positive emotional states, conversely, are associated with better health outcomes across multiple measures. This does not mean that difficult emotions should be avoided or suppressed. They are part of being human, and attempting to eliminate them entirely is neither possible nor desirable. It does mean that attention to emotional life is a legitimate part of health maintenance, not a luxury or an indulgence. Several practices appear helpful for supporting emotional balance. Gratitude practice, regularly noting things for which one feels thankful, has been studied extensively and shown to produce measurable benefits for both mental and physical health. Joyful activities, pursued deliberately and regularly, provide direct physiological benefits. Laughter, in particular, appears to have specific effects on stress hormones, immune function, and pain perception. Connection with others who provide support and encouragement matters enormously. The quality of social relationships is one of the strongest predictors of health outcomes in later life. Those with strong social ties consistently outlive and outperform those who are isolated, even when other factors are accounted for. For many people, spiritual or philosophical frameworks provide emotional resources that support health. Belief in something larger than oneself, whether expressed through organized religion, personal spirituality, or connection to nature, appears to offer protective effects. Practices like meditation, prayer, or time in contemplation help regulate the emotional system and provide perspective on life's challenges. The microbial partners. The human body does not exist in isolation. It hosts trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, viruses that collectively weigh several pounds and outnumber human cells. These microbial partners are not passive passengers. They actively participate in digestion, produce vitamins, train the immune system, and influence everything from mood to metabolism. The community of microorganisms living in the digestive tract, often called the gut microbiome, is particularly important for health. Its composition varies among individuals and changes over time in response to diet, medications, stress, and other factors. In general, greater diversity of microbial species is associated with better health outcomes. Supporting a healthy microbiome involves several strategies. Eating a wide variety of plant foods provides the fiber that beneficial bacteria use as fuel. Different bacteria prefer different types of fiber, so variety in the diet promotes variety in the microbiome. Fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt, kefir, kombucha introduce beneficial organisms directly. Avoiding unnecessary antibiotics, both in medicine and in food, prevents the destruction of beneficial bacteria. The microbiome becomes particularly important in the second half of life for several reasons. Diversity tends to decline with age, particularly in those who eat limited diets. Immune function, closely tied to microbial signals, becomes more dependent on appropriate microbial input. The gut barrier, which the microbiome helps maintain, becomes more vulnerable to compromise. Research suggests that certain patterns in the microbiome are associated with healthier aging. Individuals who maintain high microbial diversity into their later years tend to have better physical and cognitive function. They also appear more resilient to various health challenges. The built environment. Most people in developed countries spend the vast majority of their time indoors. The quality of indoor environments, air, water, light, materials, significantly influences health, yet receives far less attention than diet or exercise. Indoor air can be significantly more polluted than outdoor air, even in cities. Building materials, furniture, cleaning products, and personal care items release various compounds that the body must process. Mold and moisture issues create conditions that affect respiratory health. Poor ventilation allows pollutants to accumulate. Attention to the immediate environment can make a meaningful difference. Adequate ventilation, particularly when cooking or cleaning, reduces exposure to airborne compounds. Choosing cleaning and personal care products with fewer synthetic chemicals reduces the body's detoxification burden. Addressing moisture issues promptly prevents mold growth. Bringing plants indoors may help filter air, though the effect is modest. Light exposure deserves particular attention. The modern environment provides very different light than the one in which humans evolved. Bright light at night, particularly the blue wavelengths emitted by screens and LED bulbs, disrupts circadian rhythms and interferes with sleep. Insufficient light during the day, particularly in the morning, weakens the signals that keep internal clocks synchronized. Simple adjustments can help. Spending time outdoors during daylight hours, even briefly, provides the bright light that supports circadian regulation. Dimming lights in the evening and using warmer color temperatures signals the body that night is approaching. Reducing screen time before bed, or using blue-blocking glasses, prevents the most disruptive wavelengths from interfering with sleep. The rhythms of life. Living things are rhythmic. Circadian cycles, monthly cycles, seasonal cycles, all influence physiology in ways that modern life often ignores. The body expects certain patterns. Activity during daylight, rest at night, different foods in different seasons, periods of exertion followed by periods of recovery. When these rhythms are disrupted, the body must work harder to maintain function. Shift work, which forces activity during the biological night, is associated with increased risk for numerous health problems. Eating late at night, when digestive systems expect to be resting, impairs metabolic function. Year-round access to the same foods, regardless of season, may affect the body in ways not yet fully understood. Supporting natural rhythms does not require abandoning modern life. It does mean paying attention to patterns and making adjustments where possible. Regular sleep and wake times, even on weekends, support circadian stability. Eating larger meals earlier in the day, when digestive function peaks, may improve metabolic outcomes. Taking breaks throughout the day, moments of rest between periods of activity, prevents the accumulation of fatigue. Seasonal shifts also deserve consideration. In traditional societies, diets changed with the seasons, lighter foods in summer, more substantial fare in winter. Activity patterns shifted as well, with more outdoor work in warm months and more indoor activities when weather turned cold. Some research suggests that this kind of seasonal variation may be healthful, providing periods of different demands that keep systems adaptable. The social fabric. Perhaps no factor influences health in later life as powerfully as social connection. the quality of relationships, the presence of support of others, the sense of belonging to something larger than oneself, all predict health outcomes with remarkable consistency. The mechanisms are multiple. Social support buffers the effects of stress, providing resources that make challenges more manageable. Social engagement provides reasons for continued activity and participation. Social bonds influence health behaviors. People tend to eat, move, and live like those around them. Even directly, physical contact and emotional connection trigger physiological responses that support health. Conversely, social isolation exacts a heavy toll. Loneliness is associated with increased inflammation, poorer immune function, higher blood pressure, and accelerated cognitive decline. Its effects on mortality risk are comparable to those of smoking or obesity, yet receive far less attention in public health discourse. Maintaining social connections in later life requires intention. Work relationships often fade after retirement. Children move away. Friends may relocate or pass away. New connections must be cultivated to replace those lost. This takes effort, particularly for those who are naturally introverted or who have experienced significant losses. Community involvement offers one pathway: volunteer work, participation in religious or spiritual communities, joining clubs or groups organized around shared interests, all provide opportunities for connection. Intergenerational relationships, with people younger and older, offer particular benefits, providing perspective and keeping individuals connected to the broader flow of life. For those who find in-person connection challenging, technology offers alternatives. Video calls, online communities, and phone conversations cannot fully replace physical presence, but they provide meaningful connection when in-person contact is limited. The key is regular, meaningful interaction with others who provide support and encouragement. The role of purpose. Humans need reasons to get up in the morning. Beyond the basic drives for survival and comfort, there is a need for meaning, for a sense that one's life matters, that one's efforts contribute to something beyond oneself. Research on healthy aging consistently identifies purpose as a protective factor. Those who report a strong sense of purpose live longer, maintain better function, and experience slower cognitive decline than those who lack it. The effect appears across cultures and persists even when other factors are accounted for. Purpose takes many forms. For some, it comes from family, caring for children or grandchildren, supporting siblings, maintaining family traditions. For others, it comes from work, whether paid or voluntary, contributing skills and experience to projects that matter. Creative expression, spiritual practice, political engagement, mentoring, teaching, gardening, all can provide the sense that one's life has meaning beyond mere existence. Purpose is not something that arrives fully formed. It is cultivated through attention to what matters, through engagement with activities that feel significant, through reflection on values and priorities. It can shift over time, taking different forms as circumstances change. The important thing is not the specific form, but the presence of something that feels worth getting up for. For those in the second half of life, purpose often involves giving back. After decades of building careers and raising families, many find deep satisfaction in sharing what they have learned, in supporting the next generation, in contributing to causes larger than themselves. This generativity, the desire to leave something for those who follow, appears to be a natural developmental stage, and embracing it supports continued vitality. Putting knowledge into practice, understanding these principles, is one thing. Living them consistently is another. The gap between knowledge and action is where most good intentions falter. Several strategies can help bridge this gap. Starting small, with changes that feel manageable, builds momentum without overwhelming. focusing on one area at a time, rather than attempting complete transformation overnight, allows new habits to establish before adding more. Tracking progress, in whatever form feels useful, provides feedback and maintains motivation. Support from others makes a significant difference. Sharing intentions with friends or family creates accountability. Working with a coach, teacher, or practitioner provides expert guidance and encouragement. Joining groups of people working towards similar goals offers community and shared learning. Flexibility matters as well. Life rarely follows predictable paths. Illness, family demands, work pressures, and unexpected events will inevitably disrupt even the best-laid plans. The goal is not perfect adherence, but consistent return to practice after each disruption. What matters most is what happens most days, not what happens on any single day. For those who find themselves overwhelmed, professional guidance can help. Functional medicine practitioners, naturopathic doctors, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, and other health professionals can provide individualized assessment and support. They can help identify which areas deserve priority attention and adjust approaches based on individual response. The long view. Health in the second half of life is not built in a day or a week or a month. It is built over years and decades, through thousands of small choices that gradually shape the body's trajectory. The effects of these choices compound over time, for better or worse. This can feel discouraging to those who want quick results, but it also means that small changes, consistently maintained, produce meaningful effects over time. A 10-minute walk added to each day becomes over a year more than 60 hours of additional movement. One extra serving of vegetables each day becomes hundreds of additional servings over a year. 5 minutes of gratitude practice each morning becomes 30 hours of focused attention on what is good. The body responds to these accumulated inputs. It gradually shifts its baseline, adapting to the new conditions it consistently experiences. Old patterns lose their hold. New capacities emerge. What once required effort becomes automatic. This process never stops. At any age, at any level of current health, the body retains the capacity to respond to supportive conditions. The improvements possible at 70 may be different from those possible at 50, but they are real nonetheless. The body continues to adapt, to repair, to maintain itself as best it can with the resources provided. The goal, then, is not perfection or immortality. It is simply to provide the best possible conditions for the body to do what it has always done, to maintain itself, to adapt to circumstances, to keep functioning as well as possible for as long as possible. This is not a dramatic or heroic goal. It is a quiet, steady commitment to showing up, day after day, and doing what makes sense. A final reflection. The second half of life brings challenges that the first half did not. Bodies change. Losses accumulate. The future becomes more finite. These realities cannot be avoided, and pretending otherwise serves no one. But the second half also brings gifts. Perspective deepens. What once seemed urgent becomes less so. Priorities clarify. The capacity for gratitude, for appreciation of simple pleasures, for connection with what truly matters, all can deepen with time if cultivated. Health in these years is not about maintaining the body of a 30-year-old. It is about supporting the body one actually has, with its particular strengths and limitations, to function as well as possible. It is about creating conditions that allow continued engagement with life, continued contribution, continued experience of all that makes being human worthwhile. The principles outlined here: attention to food, movement, rest, environment, connection, purpose, are not commands to be followed rigidly. They are invitations to consider how life might be lived more fully. They are suggestions based on accumulated observation and emerging research about what tends to support human flourishing across the lifespan. Each person must find their own way with these principles, adapting them to individual circumstances, preferences, and needs. There is no single right way to eat, to move, to rest, to connect. There are only ways that work better or worse for particular individuals in particular situations. The invitation is simply to pay attention, to notice how the body responds to different foods, different activities, different patterns of rest and engagement, to make small adjustments based on what is observed, to keep learning, keep adapting, keep showing up. The body, for its part, will continue doing what it has always done, responding to conditions, adapting as best it can, maintaining the precious gift of life for as long as possible. This is the art of growing well. Not a formula to be followed, but a practice to be cultivated. Not a destination to be reached, but a way of traveling. Not a battle against time, but a dance with it. Graceful and imperfect and uniquely one's own. If there is one idea to carry forward from this conversation, it is this. The body you inhabit in your later years is not the result of luck or genetics alone, but the cumulative product of thousands of small, daily choices about how you live. Not choices made in pursuit of perfection, but choices made with awareness about what you eat, how you move, when you rest, who you surround yourself with, and why you get up in the morning. These choices compound quietly over time, shaping your trajectory in ways that are profound yet entirely undramatic. We would love to hear what resonated with you, what questions remain, or simply what your own experience has taught you about growing well. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if this conversation added something of value to your understanding, you are warmly invited to explore the other films in our library and to subscribe so that new wisdom finds its way to you when it becomes available. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.